I'm using light bread to make another recipe in this video. If you're not familiar with light bread, some people call it white bread, loaf bread, sandwich bread. In Appalachian Foodways, light bread plays a role. So we've been discussing all the various ways that we eat light bread here in the Appalachian Mountains. Today I've had a very busy day, and so it's supper time. Matt just walked in the door. I don't have any supper. So I'm going to make something really quick with light bread. I'm going to make chipped beef gravy and we're going to eat it on toast. Now, you may have already, it's very common, so you probably already know what I'm talking about. Some people call it SOS. I'll let you figure out what that means. You probably know that. Also, people use the same recipe and they use either hamburger meat and even tuna, I've heard. So, various different ways to make a little gravy, a meat gravy out of whether it's dried beef, the hamburger, you could even do sausage, I'm sure, or tuna, and then just put it on, toast your light bread and put it on the toast. A lot of people consider this a real comfort food. It takes them back to childhood. Now, when I was a child, we didn't have this ever that I remember. We really didn't have hamburger gravy either. We had, of course, sausage gravy for breakfast, bacon gravy, and Granny would make, if it was a gravy with meat in it, it was cube steak. She would make gravy, cube steak, and then put gravy over it, and so that was her gravy dish. But when I first ate this is one of those foods, so many of my recipes either, of course, come from my family, but a lot of them come from Matt's family. So once Matt and I were married, his mother taught me how to make this. And it was a dish that Matt ate often when he was a child, so he has those fond memories of it being like a comfort food. It's super easy and quick, though, to whip up, so I'm going to show you how to do that now. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've got 2 tablespoons of butter in a frying pan, and I'm going to turn that on so it can be melting. Then I've got my dried beef, and I'm going to cut it into cubes. Now, for some people, this is way too salty, and they might boil it for a minute or something, or just let it soak in water for 10 minutes and then drain it and then use it. But for us, it's okay. It's kind of like side meat, streaked meat that we eat. Fat back, it's real salty, and a lot of people will do the same for that, but for us the saltiness is kind of the appeal. And there's really no rhyme or reason to how you cut it up. You could make it really, really small, you could leave it in bigger pieces, it's just totally your preference. Okay, now that the butter's melted, I'm just going to put my beef in there and let it cook for 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, you can see it's getting kind of brown around the edges. That's how we like ours. Gives it some flavor, but that's totally up to you how you do it. Now I'm going to put in the flour, about 2 tablespoons of flour, and some pepper. You don't need any salt because, of course, the meat's salty enough. And just let this cook for a minute or so. Okay, that's been cooking for about a minute. Now I've got about 1.5 cups of milk, and I'm going to add it. And then, just like any other kind of gravy, you just kind of let it simmer along. I'm going to turn down the heat and let it simmer until it's thick and it's ready to eat. While our gravy continues to thicken, I'm going to slice up a cucumber and a tomato and maybe a cantaloupe from our garden to go with supper. So that's an easy addition. In the summertime, it's easy to quickly add something straight from the garden to kind of spice up supper. Those little tomatoes are so good. These are just bite size. Add those. Give our gravy a stir. It's getting thicker. I'm going to cut one of our cantaloupes. Chickens love the seeds, so I save those for them. It's looking good. Okay, now that I've got that cut up and our gravy's almost done, it's pretty thick, I'm going to go ahead and toast my light bread. And then we will be ready to eat. Not bad for a quick meal.
Well, I hadn't eaten it yet, but
Oh.
I'm sure it'll be fine. I may just keep you.
I have a zucchini chocolate cake. Maybe you don't need any of it if you're going to
Where'd
talk
that come
like
from?
that. I made it today.
Did you?
Yeah.
You're just a peach.
Yeah, I know. Aw, sweet. So a super quick meal to make. Matt just got home and within 20 minutes I had this completed. Super easy. Maybe not the healthiest, but super easy and lots of memories of childhood for lots of people. So it's going to be good. I love to eat it with like fresh tomatoes and cucumbers. I cut me up a cucumber. Matt don't care for cucumbers as much as I do. And get some of those wonderful tomatoes out of our garden. It just adds a brightness to it. So I hope you enjoyed seeing how to make this very quick meal. Chipped beef on gravy, SOS, whatever you call it. I'm sure that you have a variation of it. I hope that you'll leave a comment and tell me about that variation, whether it's you do it a different way and use dried beef, maybe you use tuna, maybe use beef, maybe use something else. please leave a comment and tell me about it. But this is another recipe that utilizes light bread here in the mountains of Appalachia. If you missed any of those previous light bread recipes and the main video where I talk about light bread and the important role it plays in the foodways of Appalachia, I will be sure to link to all that in the description below. I hope you drop back by often to help me celebrate Appalachia, which is a whole lot of Appalachian foodways.